think you're misconstruing atheism with nihilism.
No, nihilism is a byproduct of atheism.
Yes, those are tragedies going on in the world. My response is, nothing matters. It's all empty and meaningless. This is how the world is. Get used to it.
Well, it's a paradoxical way, though. The first part of that is nihilistic, and the second part isn't. So how do you reconcile those two things?
Exactly what I do.
What I said at the beginning is that the atheist types act out a religious structure and criticize it.
No religious structure.
If he were telling the truth, he wouldn't have told us.
Unless, of course, he knew you wouldn't believe the truth, even if he told it to you.
What's up, Bliss? How are you? Yes, it is, Aubrey. What's up?
Just making sure.
Hi, how are you doing today?
I'm just chilling. I had a really good day today.
I'll be nice and kind today, I promise. I'm sorry about the previous interactions that I've had. I'll try over.
I forgive you.
Thank you. It's very kind of you. I have a question about the prompt on the back. Do you think me being an atheist means that I have no morality?
It's not that you don't have morality. It's just at the core, there's no true basis for it. It's just borrowed.
Dostoevsky said straightforwardly, if there's no God, so if there's no higher value, let's say, if there's no transcendent value, then you can do whatever you want. And that's the question that he's investigating. And you see, this is why I have such frustration, say, with people like Sam Harris, the sort of radical atheists, because they seem to think that once human beings abandon their grounding in the transcendent, that the plausible way forward is with a kind of purist rationality that automatically attributes to other people equivalent value. I don't understand that. I mean, it's as if the psychopathic tendency is irrational. There's nothing irrational about it. Where's the pathway from rationality to an egalitarian virtue? Why the hell not every man for himself and the devil take the hindmost? It's a perfectly coherent philosophy, and it's actually one that you can institute in the world with a fair bit of material success if you want to do it. So to me, I think that the universe that people like Dawkins and Harris inhabit is so intensely conditioned by mythological presuppositions that they take for granted the ethic that emerges out of that as if it's just a given, a rational given. And this, of course, precisely Nietzsche's observation as well as Dostoevsky's. That's Nietzsche's observation. You don't get it. The ethic that you think is normative is a consequence of its nesting inside this tremendously lengthy history, much of which was expressed in mythological formulation. You wipe that out. You don't get to keep all the presuppositions and just assume that they're rationally axiomatic. To make a rational argument, you have to start with initial proposition. Well, the proposition that underlies Western culture is that there's a transcendent morality. Now, you could say that's a transcendent morality instantiated in the figure of God. That's fine. You could even call that a personification of the morality. If you don't want to move into a metaphysical space, I'm not arguing for the existence of God. I'm arguing that the ethic that drives our culture is predicated on the idea of God, and that you can't just take that idea away and expect the thing to remain intact midair without any foundational support.
Your morality is simply borrowed by your experiences.
So you think that atheism at its core doesn't believe that murder is wrong?
Well, at the core of atheism, yeah, absolutely.
In Dostoevsky's book, Crime and Punishment, Raskolnikov decides that he's going to commit a murder, and he has very good justification for the murder. And Dostoevsky's very good at this. He puts his characters into very difficult moral situations and gives them full justification for pursuing the pathway that they're pursuing. And so Raskolnikov, he's broke and starving. He wants to go to law school. His sister's about to prostitute herself, roughly speaking, by marrying a guy that hates her, that she hates, and he has contempt for her, or at least acts in that manner. He's trying to rescue his mother as well, who's also in dire financial straits. She has this niece that's not very bright, who she basically treats as a slave and is horrible to. And so Raskolnikov is in dire need. He thinks, look, I'll just kill her, because why the hell not? I'll take her money. She's not doing any good with it anyway. I'll free her niece, who's just lurking as a slave. She's got all these other people tangled up in her pawnbroker schemes. All that'll happen is the world will be a better place. And the only thing that's holding me back is conventional moral cowardice. Trying to justify himself, placing himself outside the law so that he can perpetrate this act, and telling himself with all the best nihilistic arguments that the only possible thing that could be holding him back is an arbitrary sense of indoctrinated morality.
It doesn't posit anything. There is no rationality. There is no morality. You're just a bag of meat.
So I think you're misconstruing atheism with nihilism.
No, nihilism is a byproduct of atheism.
Yes, those are tragedies going on in the world. My response is, nothing matters. It's all empty and meaningless. This is how the world is. Get used to it. Get on with it, girl.
That sounds like a very Zen Buddhist way of dealing.
I get
Well,
it.
it's a paradoxical way, though.
It is
because
is kind of paradoxical.
the first part of that is nihilistic and the second part isn't. So how do you reconcile those two things? Why get on with it, girl?
Let's suppose you become nihilistic. Nothing matters. There's no point in doing it. I mean, I think we live in a pointless universe. What are you going to do? Okay, tomorrow morning, when you wake up, think it's all pointless. There's no point in doing anything. Now, what are you going to do? Well, actually, you're going to need to go to the loo. You're going to get out of bed and you're going to go to the bathroom. And when you're there, you'll think, actually, I'm hungry. I think I want to go down to the kitchen. I probably should put my slippers on. Why don't I get dressed?
But they're not constructed.
I'd like to hear
Hunger
Jordan's
isn't
response to this.
constructed. Neither is your desire to use the loo. None of that's constructed.
No.
So imagine this. You have the proximal meanings that you described that are sort of a priori, right?
Yeah.
They're handed to you. You might consider them as needs or drives, although they're
Yes.
not. They're personalities. That's not the right way of conceptualizing them. But then there's the intermingling of all those needs and drives, let's say. And that constitutes a new layer of structure, because it isn't just that you have to eat and that you have to use the washroom and that you have to have something to drink and that you have to be warm enough or cool enough to survive. It's that you have to do all those things at the same time in a situation where you're going to have to propagate that across time, and you're going to have to do it with a bunch of other people. And it's always been like that. And so what that means is that out of those proximal meanings, higher meanings arise. And you might say, well, those meanings are arbitrary, and I would think those are religious
I wouldn't
meanings.
say they are arbitrary, but I would say they were constructed. It's very interesting. Reading your book.
What do you mean by constructed?
They are a consequence of mimetic evolution, of the language that people are brought up in, the culture they live in, the arguments they have. I mean,
What about the biology that they're given?
we start with the biology, and the memes build on top of that.
Nah,
Culture
the
builds
memes are
on top.
biology too.
By definition, they are.
See, this is the thing.
I would follow Dork. You know, if I think of something like, well, that most of my striving goes into writing my books. And is that meaningful? And again, I have the same response when I ask myself that question. It's just what this body does.
Then you should listen to the body and stop listening to the thing that's criticizing it.
And what would the body say?
It would say, write your book and try to be as clear as you possibly can
that's what
about
I do.
it.
And that's
Right, but this is
exactly what I do.
What I said at the beginning is that the atheist types act out a religious structure and
No,
criticize
there's
it.
no religious structure.
Nihilism can be outside of atheism. Yeah.
Yes, it can. I don't disagree with that, but nihilism is still a byproduct of atheism.
Do you think that, what is your definition of byproduct?
That's something that results as a product of the main source of atheism, because that belief in not having a God and realizing that all these other humans are just pieces of shit, it's just very natural for especially men to come to this nihilistic standpoint that, hey, what the fuck's the point?
You're going to be looking at some point in your life when the chips are down and the storms are rising. You're going to be looking for something like a sustaining meaning. And if you don't have it, God help you in those situations. And they're definitely coming. In fact, you might be living chronically that way right now, right? Depressed, anxious, nihilistic, on the edge of suicide. Why? Because you haven't adopted any meaningful responsibility. That's the actual answer. The emptiness in your life isn't because you don't have enough rights. You have all the rights there are. You have more than you should. Well, what are you missing? Well, maybe you're missing the opposite of that. A little bit of restraint, a little bit of sacrifice, some responsibility.
So, do you think that instead of saying that nihilism is a byproduct of atheism, you could say that nihilism is a byproduct of belief instead?
No.
Then what other things do you think are a byproduct? Or like what other things cause a byproduct of nihilism?
Well, I don't know. The best thing that I can think of is atheism. Atheism for me is really the best source of why nihilism is a product of society in the first place.
So you know that there are other religions that like...
Yeah, so tell me, like, you give me an example, because I'm being honest. I can't think of another example. Give me an example that you think would be applicable in this scenario.
Sometimes, like, byproducts of Satanism or byproducts of spiritualism can go into the mind and realm of nihilism.
Okay.
This thought of, well, things don't matter, so that means that I don't have any morality and I do whatever I want until I die. The basis for morality for me as an atheist comes from a lot of the things that I know would hurt me and not do good for me. Like, I know that if somebody went and decided they wanted to come into my house and steal my things, it would hurt my life. So I think that atheism can cause this.
Aubrey.
A lot of the time, atheism can go into like...
Time out, Aubrey. What you just described is every other other human being. And do you know why every other human being feels that way?
Why do you think so?
Because whether you want to believe it or not, we were all made in the image of God. We did not evolve from chimps.
But
We are not a product of mindless, misguided processes.
I'm just trying to see, and I don't want to I don't want to stop you from talking about what you want to talk about because it is your life. But I'm just trying to go into atheism and why at its core it does have basis for rationality and morality. Because a lot of the time atheists understand that if there is nothing after this, why not be a better person whenever it comes to humanity? It is better for society. It helps us get our job. I understand that almost 70% of the US population is Christian, but on that other, 30%? They're not the people that are committing a lot of the crime a majority of the time.
Aubrey, don't be so focused on the demographics. Right now, focus on your soul. Your soul.
And I have a lot of, at my core, I have a lot of morality knowing that I'm atheist. That's what I'm trying to tell you, is my, atheism is the core of my morality and rationality.
Aubrey, listen to me. Please remember what I said to you in the very beginning of this conversation when I brought you up. It's not that you don't have morality. It's just at the core, there's no true basis for it. It's just borrowed. Your morality is simply borrowed by your experiences. If you could kindly mute all of y'all, Kazama too is keeping me from focusing on what I'm trying to say to you. Aubrey, please mute. Shit. Oh, God. Oh. So what I'm trying to say is, remember what I first said in the very beginning. I'm not trying to say that you don't have morality. And I understand that you want to defend the morality that you possess right now. And that's not the point. Let me read something to you. I'll tell you why. What you've been saying is something that John Lennox, he's a professor of philosophy and mathematics at Oxford University. This is what he says. Leading philosopher Alvin Plantinga of Notre Dame says, if atheists are right that we are the product of mindless, unguided natural processes, then they have given us strong reason to doubt the reliability of human cognitive faculties, and therefore inevitably to doubt the validity of any belief that they produce. Their biology and their belief in naturalism would therefore appear to be at war with each other in a conflict that is nothing at all to do with God.
Yet my atheist friends still insist that it is rational for them to believe that the evolution of human reason was not directed for the purpose of discovering truth. And yet it is irrational for me to believe that human reason was designed and created by God to enable us to understand and believe the truth. Curious logic.
John Lennox.
So, do you think that, if you were atheist, do you think that humans are mindless and unhinged?
You want my honest opinion?
Yes.
First and foremost, if you could kindly mute, I'd like to start by saying I don't discriminate. Aside from Christians and unbelievers, if we were to just dichotomize all of humanity with Christians and unbelievers, I don't care if you're a Christian, I don't care if you're an unbeliever. Majority of this world are full of non-playable characters. Most humans are just worthless use of oxygen. That's just how I feel. But do I want to get rid of them? No.
Wait,
no.
sorry. You glitched out for the beginning of that. Are you saying that in the mind of an atheist, or are you saying that in your own belief?
No, I'm just saying what I feel as a human being, regardless of whether or not I'm a Christian, and regardless of whether or not the humans are Christian or unbelievers. When I look at the rest of humanity, I see a bunch of non-playable characters, whether they be Christian or unbelievers. There's only very few people that I will give the time of day and actually be patient enough and have a conversation with. But like I said, just because I feel like most of these people are a waste of oxygen does not mean that I want to actually get rid of them like the New World Order does. They want to bring down the population down to 500 million into perpetuity.
How and why the Guidestones were built has never been answered. A man using the alias R.C. Christian shows up at the Elberton Granite Finishing Company on a summer day in 1979 and he tells them he wants to build the Georgia Guidestones. Supporters like Yoko Ono, and come on, of course Yoko Ono supports him, right? Praise their message as a stirring call to rational thinking. But opponents attack them, calling them the 10 Commandments of the Antichrist. The first 9 seem to be a benign call to higher thinking. Don't be a cancer on the earth. Seek harmony. Balance personal rights with social duties. Avoid petty laws. Resolve international conflicts in a world court. Protect people with fair laws. Rule with reason. Unite humanity with a new language. Guide reproduction wisely. But it's the final directive on the stones that sets off everyone's spider sense.
Maintain humanity under 500 million in perpetual balance with nature?
Wow.
Oh, that's interesting.
That's a directive?
The directive makes some believe that the Guidestones are calling for the mass murder of billions of innocent people.
Who is the New World Order?
The beast system.
If you know someone who's a Mason, or if you yourself are a Mason, realize that when you kneel at the altar of Masonry as an entered apprentice, and you take that oath, you are adopted into the family of Lucifer at that moment. Now, you don't probably know that. I did, but most people don't even know that. And as a result, if you're a Christian, and mind you, there are pastors that are doing this, there are deacons that are doing this, there are countless Christian lay people that are doing this. You cannot serve two masters. If you understood the profound relationship between witchcraft and Freemasonry, you would know what that cord, that cable tow meant, because they've got a rope around their neck. And what that means in witchcraft and the occult is that is a symbol of the umbilical cord of the mother goddess, the Queen of Heaven, linking her to her hidden child. So this guy has just been born again by the Queen of Hell, the consort of Lucifer. Every Mason has this happen. And they don't understand the dynamics, probably 99 out of 100, but they still go through it.
The B system?
Yes.
Couldn't you elaborate?
It's in the Bible.
I don't read the Bible.
Okay, well, there will be a time where you'll get some sort of chip in your wrist or sign on your forehead, and you can't buy, you can't sell, you can't travel unless you take this mark.
Listen, if we move into a central bank digital currency or a one world currency that's purely digital and does not have any protections, then the IMF or the DCMA or whatever authority is behind this will have wholesale control of the monetary supply when they want to print money, when they want to send it to you, when they want to take it from you, when they want to see who you've sent money to, who you've transacted with, what you're doing with their money. They will have full visibility into every single thing that you as a citizen of the world do with your money at any given time, and will be able to control what and where you spend your money. It's absolutely, it's just terrifying.
I'm
sure you all understand the legalistic drawback to pre-crime methodology.
Here we go again.
Look, I'm not with the ACLU on this, Jeff. But let's not kid ourselves. We are arresting individuals who have broken no law.
But they will. The commission of the crime itself is absolute metaphysics. The precogs see the future, and they're never wrong.
But it's not the future if you stop it. Isn't that a fundamental paradox?
Yes.
I think
Wait, hold up. Are you aware of the social credit score system in China right now?
They're constantly monitored by facial recognition cameras that are able to instantly put a face to a name. Now, the Chinese are also ranked, given a mark out of a possible 950 points. A score in the 700s is considered good. Around the 500 mark is not.
I think being ranked is a good thing. A society has to have rules.
It forces us to be well behaved.
It may seem scary, but it's just like that here. We're used to it. And anyway, we don't have a choice.
Beijing is taking the system a step further in 2020. It's aggregating data gathered by banks, private companies, and the state to rate if someone's a good or bad citizen.
No, I don't understand how this is on topic. Personally, I'm willing to talk to you, but I just don't understand how it's on topic with. Do you think that atheists?
I always kick you, Aubrey.
Do you think that atheists believe that we are? My original point was that, and then you said the world is full of NPCs and people who are wasting air and oxygen. I understand that.
Honestly, I think that you're a waste of oxygen, Aubrey. But I still bring you back all the time. I forgive you for your stupidity because, hey, look, I understand understand. Listen, Aubrey, hold on. Let me finish. Aubrey, let me finish, please. I bring you back every time because I understand that, especially last time when you were out and about and you came in just to say hi, and you're like, hey, I just wanted to say thank you. Even though I'm a complete shithead, you always let me up. I'm out and about, so I'm gonna go, but just wanted to say thank you. Then you come back today and we have this conversation, and I bring you up because I can sense a change in your demeanor, because all humans, whether you be a boy or a girl, sometimes when you get smacked in the face and you get a dose of reality, you realize, hey, maybe I need to shape up. And that's why I allow you to come back. And then
You're giving me reality?
Hold on, please. Mute yourself, please.
I just don't like.
Listen, you're starting to go back down.
No, because you're trying to rabbit hole me into this other argument. That doesn't matter.
There you have it. I gave her ample warning.
Hello.
Kazama, how are ya?
Kazama
Shin Kazama.
Yeah, I'm a bit tired. How about you?
Me too. Pretty tired myself.
Yeah, but I want to say I'm definitely an atheist and I debate a lot of Christian people. One of my best friends is actually a Christian. I don't know what it's called in English, but it's one of the Protestant variants, I think. I don't know. My first language isn't English, so.
Presbyterian, Baptist, Methodist.
It's called something with free. It's German, I don't know. But what I'm trying to say here is...
Tag.
Yeah, guten Tag. I think that morality is always subjective because I, for one, just believe that the Bible was written by humans.
Yes, it was written by humans, but they were divinely inspired through the Holy Spirit.
And that would be Jesus or the God of which testament exactly?
To answer that question, Jesus, the Son, the Word, is the Holy Spirit, and the Holy Spirit is the Father, and the Father is the Son.
So the New Testament and the Old Testament, that's like the same God?
One and the same, yes, absolutely.
Okay. But then why did the Old Testament God try to intervene, and why did he stop intervening?
Why did he intervene and why did he stop intervening? He stopped intervening in the same way because Jesus. If you want anything done right, you have to do it yourself. He tried to do it through Moses and through the law, but all it proved was that they focused so much on the letter of the law that they completely lost sight of the spirit of the law. And so Jesus had to come down himself and teach us and pay for our sins.
But I don't fully get it because God kind of came down and he sacrificed himself to himself.
No, he sacrificed himself to be the atonement, to pay the debt. He paid your debt and he paid my debt. When his blood was shed on the cross, he paid your debt and my debt.
No, but okay, first of all, I don't have a debt. I sin a lot, but I don't think it's a debt. And secondly, I think that it doesn't really make sense to me because the thing is, we're being saved from something that he himself created, because hell was actually created by God to stop Lucifer, because Lucifer was starting a war against God, no?
No. Hell was created for the devil and his angels. But that is just the punishment. Now, in the Bible, it says 1 day is as 1,000 years and 1,000 years is as a day with God. It's like me watching my children grow up. I want to do my best to guide them, but at the same time, I need to let them make their own mistakes. I need to let them scrape their knees. I need to let them get in a few fights. I need to let them get in trouble. Because unless they experience these things, if I keep telling you, don't do this, they don't actually get a chance to experience it for themselves. There's no free will in that.
Yeah, I get that, but the thing is, hell is still his creation. It's still his mistake. And
Well, hold up. Let me get to that point. Now, there's this process of me seeing the end result of my children. And I can't really compare myself to God, but God, essentially, when I was saying 1 day is as 1,000 years and 1,000 years is as a day, he's already made his judgment. That judgment is that hell was created for the devil and his angels, but through the passing of time, everyone is given the same choice. And whether you choose Jesus or whether you choose yourself, you choose hell. God doesn't send you there. You choose it on your own free will. That's what you need to understand as an atheist.
Yeah, I do understand, and I willingly chose hell. I will always choose it. But the thing is, if God created it,
Why would you choose hell? I don't understand.
the thing is, I am an atheist, so I don't believe that he exists. But if he hypothetically did exist and I was wrong, I would not like him at all, and I don't agree with
Okay,
anything.
all right, then let's talk about that.
Yeah.
Why don't you like God?
Okay, I don't know where to start, but we could start a story about Noah's Ark and actually what led to it beforehand. Too much sin.
Time out now. You bring up Noah's Ark. That's a great point. But have you ever watched The Walking Dead?
No, sadly not.
Well, you know about the zombies, right?
Yeah.
So if there were a bunch of zombies walking around and all of humanity was about to die and God just wiped out the whole planet and saved 8 humans, Noah, his 3 sons, his wife, and their 3 wives, what don't you understand about that?
Because they're not zombies, that's genocide.
No. That's what you don't understand. The days of Noah was riddled with genetic corruption. The whole reason why you've got Greek mythology, Egyptian mythology, Sumerian mythology is because of the days of Noah and the angels who kept not their first estate. The ones that wanted to come down and have sex with the human women.
Yeah, but why did he drown them for 40 days? It's torture. It's waterboarding.
No, he destroyed the entire earth, the dinosaurs, everything.
Yeah, but what did the animals do to him?
You have to understand there was a lot of genetic corruption that was being done by the Nephilim. So whether you believe this or not, I'll just share it with you and you can just choose whether you do more research on the matter or not.
Sure.
But essentially, Genesis chapter 6, when the sons of God descended down upon the daughters of men and took upon them wives. These watchers, there were 200 watchers, as according to Enoch 1, not Enoch 2, not Enoch 3, not even the last part of Enoch 1, just the first part of Enoch 1.
No God will ever again come to your aid. You are on your own!
Because Enoch 1 is not even all written by Enoch. Only the first 2 parables are actually written by Enoch. But Enoch chapter 6 goes into greater detail of what happened in Genesis chapter 6. And these 200 watchers lusted after the human daughters. More specifically, Semyaza, the leader of the watchers. It said that he lusted after one of the humans. Now, this is not said in Enoch or Jubilees or the Bible. This is my personal contention. But I believe that Semyaza lusted after Eve, the creation by God himself. I believe Eve was more beautiful than all of her daughters because her daughters were merely a byproduct. Now, yes, there's many times where daughters end up being a lot more beautiful than their mothers, but that's besides the point. If we're just suspending disbelief and we're thinking God crafted Eve out of Adam's rib, and then all of the daughters of Eve were born from natural birth, I believe Semyaza lusted after Eve and caused her to fall yet again, because once a cheater, always a cheater. Once a liar, always a liar. And they make this pact on Mount Hermon to be guilty altogether on this matter. And they come down and they start teaching and seducing these women with all this forbidden knowledge like root cutting, sorcery, astrology, weaponry, medicine, the beautification of the eyes, in other words, makeup. And it's no different than a rich man stealing a poor man's wife with his Ferrari. That's what the angels did with the daughters of men. And then they started having sex with them. And then they bore giants, massive giants. So when you look at the ancient Sumerian artifacts, you see Gilgamesh holding a fucking lion like he's a little cat. Why? Because he was a giant. Gilgamesh, who is none other than Nimrod in Genesis. And Cush begat Nimrod, and Nimrod became a mighty one. He experienced that genetic corruption after the flood because there were writings left behind by the Watchers that one of Shem's grandchildren, Canaan, he discovered some ancient writings left behind by the Watchers, and it was basically like a magic spell to open up portals, essentially, if I was to put it in a nutshell, and a means to bring back this technology. And so Nimrod becomes a mighty one, and Nimrod is Gilgamesh in the ancient Sumerian text. But I'll stop there for now. If you want to address all that, I know that was a lot of information.
Yeah, first of all, thanks for the information. I love learning about this in general. And I've heard of something similar in Norse mythology about titans or giants. That's a very common theme in mythology. But
And in Greek mythology.
yeah, exactly, in mythology in general. And I do think it's interesting, but if we just go back to like a broader argument, just to not go too deep into a rabbit hole, when it comes to free will, that's like the thing that I have the most issue with when it comes to God.
Tell me about it. What's your problem with free will?
I think free will is a great thing. Like, if we didn't have it, we'd be pretty screwed over. But what I think is that the free will that God is giving us is essentially like an ultimatum.
Kazama.
Yeah?
It's not an ultimatum.
If he were telling the truth, he wouldn't have told us.
Unless, of course, he knew you wouldn't believe the truth, even if he told us.